Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing. Yeah. Yeah, I
Good morning.
believe I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Hi. Yeah. Okay, so let's wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start in a while. Let's wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start. First of all, thanks for joining. Yeah. Let's wait for a couple of minutes. Let few of other friends also join. Okay, good morning, everyone. So we'll start. I believe it's 10 to. Okay, let me just get a quick call. I believe I'm audible and then the PPT is also visible. Can someone just give me a heads up?
Yes, sir.
Oh, hi. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining for this webinar on effective business communication. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, which I know which is a buzzword that most of them are really, what to say, aspire to get, because that's the way that they can express themselves to a greater extent in this digitally driven world. And I'm Dr. A Dinesh, Assistant Professor in the Department of Communication at Sivani Institute of Management, Hyderabad. Thank you once again for everyone joining. So let me just get started with today's session. Right. So before we move on, I just have a few quick tidbits about the importance of communication in today's world. When I say today's world, that's both in our personal life as well as our professional life. Let's see that almost 53% of our employees, those who are working in different corporate world, are, what to say, having kind of stressed or exhausted, especially post pandemic or during pandemic. That's the data from Harvard Business Review that clearly highlights that there needs to be a good amount of communication that has to go on within the organization to keep the employees at, what to say, more happy and to make them more productive in whatever work that they are doing. So on that ground, what I'm trying to suggest is 53%, the need of proper internal communication within the business is need of the hour. Almost more than half of the employees feels that they're not very much, what to say, feel regenerated when they get into the organization. They're exhausted for various reasons. There could be various reasons, and one major reason that they are suggesting is that communication, there isn't a proper or clear communication that's happening, because everyone, most of them happen to work from home. Now we get back to the world, say, the regular workspace, but this is a concern that the managers in business communication have to seriously look into this issue. If they feel they need to be conscious, they need to be, what to say, have a productive work environment. And employees who feel they are heard and more likely to feel empowered and perform better at work. And mark my words, this is the data from Forbes, where they say that whoever feel feeling that they've been heard by their management, from their employees, from their higher authorities, they feel that they can perform better. When they are not being heard, their productivity is not getting to the top, however, that they can do. So here again, the importance of communication, again, it is being here, what to say, the upward communication is something that they need to look after. When we are working in an organizations, the managers, the top level managements, they should listen to their employees, whether whatever their concern, when they feel they've been heard, when they have been listened to, then they feel they can be more productive. That's an again another study which shows the importance of communication in the corporate world. And almost 71% of the executives who says that this is the data from US HR, US data, where almost 500 data that has been collected from executives, top executives, almost 71% of them, they says that employee engagement is crucial for the success of the company. When we say employee engagement, through proper communication to give more clarity. So all this data clearly exemplifies the importance of communication. And 69% of the employees says that they work harder if they've been better appreciated in the workplace. So all these things boils down or tries to emphasize the importance of communication in workplace, in business context. So which we need to really take care if we need to be, what to say, on our toes in making the organization to be successful. So all this data clearly exemplifies, and few more data also I'd like to highlight, which again signifies the importance of communication in, what to say, in all business contexts wherever that we work for. Almost 46% of the employee have, what to say, are leaving the business meeting when, without knowing what they need to do next. Again, that's in, what to say, a paradox. They what to say, they gather for a meeting in order to know what they're supposed to do, but there is no proper communication that's been happening. And again, almost 60% of the employee face a crisis at least once a month due to communication issue. Due to communication issue, at least, what to say, once in a month they face, almost 60% they face some or the other communication related issue in their organization. And this is the last point which I feel, which is very important, which again says that employee who feel like they are being genuinely listened. When I say genuinely listened, yes, not just paying attention, yes, yes, and then not doing anything. It's not that. Genuinely listened by their managers are nearly 5 times more likely to have high job enthusiasm, and 21 times more likely to feel committed to the company and to the organization and to the work that they are working on. So the point is, effective communication is an integral part in every organizations that we are going to work, or that we are working, or that we will be working in future. So the point is, effective communication is an integral part for the success of an organization. If an organization is supposed to be successful, then they should be equally equipped with the communication channel and the style that they are following within the organization. And that needs to be, what to say, keep on have a check and balance, so that, what to say, all the employees within the organizations feel committed and comfortable, and they can go up and above their caliber or to their capability. They can go beyond, so that the, what to say, listening to employees is more important. Listening to their concern is almost important in all organizations that we are working. Okay, here are a few data from World Economic Forum, where they says, or they suggested, what are the top 10 skills that are required for the future, by 2025 managers, those who are in the business context. So almost by 2025, the top 10 skills that we are required, that we need, out of which, if we look at, the emphasis on soft skill is quite high. When I say soft skill, what do I mean is communication and other aspects that are related to that. We'll discuss about that going forward. So the importance of communication in this context plays an integral part and plays an indispensable role. If you look at the 6th point, leadership and social influence, that's through communication. And not just that, if you look at, there are in most instances, the importance of communication is being the, what to say, the important, and then it's more prioritized. If you look at the data from the World Economic Forum by 2015, the importance of communication is there. If you look at the data by 2020, again, the importance of communication is very well there. By 2025, the importance of communication is there. By 2030, again, the point is, maybe the year may go, the generation may differ, but the significance of effective communication in an organization is an integral part. Maybe your hard skill may differ, maybe your hard skill may vary. Maybe 10 years before, this hard skill, the computer science department or mechanical engineering might be having the hard cake, but after 5 years it might have differed, and right now it might be differ, and later it could be differ. But the point that we are trying to say is that whatever that, when the time may change, but the importance of communication is an integral part in, I mean, whatever, if you go back time travel in 10 years before, or 20 years before, 30 years before, or if we just go after 20 years, the relevance of effective and important communication prevails without a second thought. So see, these are the skills that we need to train ourselves, out of which the importance of communication is there to a greater extent. So if we look at the working with people, the sixth one, leadership and social influence, plays an integral part. That's working with people. When you have to work with people, it's more to do with communication, because leadership and communication are, to a greater extent, they go hand in hand. We'll discuss about that going forward as well. And there's a study by National Human Resource Development where they have emphasized on the key skills that are required for the industry 4.0, which we are in. So whatever that I have shown, the data, all those are from the global perspective. If you want to work in global context, and then maybe if you may be wondering that what is the relevance of communication in an Indian context, because cross-cultural differences there, and there are quite a lot of difference that we have. In that context, if the National Human Resource Development, they conducted an interesting study with the executives, the top level managers in India, in association with the business school in Bangalore, where they have came out with 10 key skills that are being required by the industry 4.0, out of which three skills that they have is in association with the soft skill and communication. The first thing, if we look at people and team orientation, I'm just emphasizing on the skills which are required, which are more relevant and more related to communication. People and team orientation. So how we can have a good interpersonal relationship, how we can have good intrapersonal, because when we happen to work with team, it's not we can work in isolation, we have to work in team. So in that context, people and team orientation is important. And then if we look at social sensitivity and cross-cultural orientation, again, that plays an integral part, because country like India, where where we are unions of state, where people from different contexts and different cultures, we are there, because we are not from, we don't have one particular culture here. Diversity is there. So when we happen to work with different culture, we need to get to know about the significance and relevance of other culture within India and across the globe as well. And managing self, this is more again to do with soft skills. So the point is, the relevance of communication, even in an Indian context, if we look at more specifically, the relevance is even more than the global context. So the relevance of communication, undoubtedly, I believe by now you get to know that it is the key thing that we need to train ourselves. I believe, most of my students would know that this quote, where we may have fantastic ideas, we may have brilliant ideas, and we know that an idea can change the world, and it is changing, it has changed, it will change, an idea will change the world. But when an idea does not couple with effective communication, the idea will not take us anywhere. Similarly, when we have a fantastic idea, when it is coupled with good communication and impactful communication, effective communication, then the same idea can go across the globe. It can reach out to anyone. And these days we talk about pan-Indian movies, because of late in India, that's something, a buzz topic among the millennials. What is pan-Indian thing? Which an idea that can connect to everyone. Communication is a pan-Indian concept. Which effective communication, if we have an effective communication, we can reach out to the globe with a brilliant idea. If we have, then we can go to great places. That's the CEO of Apple says, where the creativity and communication is what distinguishes a leader and a subordinate. Right? Yeah. So we have seen about communication, and communication comes under what specifically, whether it is a hard skill or a soft skill. We know that to define this in a nutshell, hard skill are skill that are technical, that are related to the course, our specialization, that can be assessed. Hard skill or technical knowledge or training that we can have gained over our experience in our workplace or from the education institution. Hard skill or that, like trying to know about data mining, statistics, and then trying to learn different language, and then programming, computer, mechanics. I mean, all those things, finance, marketing, HR, all those things are hard skills. Whereas when we look at the soft skills, it's more the personal, it's more personal, how we can communicate with the other, how we can be more effective with the other, how we can work in team, how we can put our ideas across the table, and how we can be more creative, teamwork, problem solving. All these things comes under soft skill. And most of the time I see people give overemphasis on hard skill, which is the core. Yes, I'm not undermining the importance of the significance of hard skill. I'm not undermining that. But without soft skill, whatever hard skill that we have might go obsolete. I may, the more common example being from Hyderabad, a common example that I used to say in my class, that knowing to prepare fantastic biryani and not knowing to serve it right to the customer will not make the biryani really as tasty as it has been prepared. So communication is about how to say. Hard skill is about what to say, and communication is about how to say. Hard skill, we know about our subject, but unless we are not in a position to express that in the right way, we may not be successful. So the point is, the importance of soft skill is a crucial aspect when we want to have more like, comment, and subscribe, or whatever for that matter, or to get our work across the table, to pitch our idea on the other side of the table. The importance of soft skill is integral. We cannot keep that aside, and then we cannot just focus on hard skill. So it is more important. And what is communication? Communication is the process of conveying the intended meaning, whatever I'm thinking. Right now I'm emphasizing on the importance of communication in the workplace, where that intended meaning should be conveyed from one to the other using a common sign, a mutually comprehensible science and language that we have. So that intended meaning should go, and here in the process of communication, the key word, the important thing is the intended meaning should be communicated, not whatever they can perceive. They can comprehend in their own way, but the core idea should go right to the audience. If you want to make it go in the right way, then we need to pay a lot of emphasis in building effective communication, and that's what we are going to see. If we want to have or convey the intended meaning from our audience, or to the audience from us, then we need to make sure that we need to practice. There are few skill sets in order to make our communication more impactful, and to make it more impactful. That intended meaning, the purpose with which that we communicate. So we'll see all these things going forward, right? Okay, here comes a well-known concept, a well-known communication process. We all know this. I always say this to my students at most instances. There is always a difference between knowing something and doing something. We may know that, we may know to be a good timekeeper. We know about what are the importance of time management, importance of communication, but are we following it? Are we in the process of doing it? To evolve ourselves. That's what. There's a very big difference between knowing something and doing something. We know about whatever I'm trying to talk about, or whatever this slide has. This might be redundant, but this session would gives you would give you an impetus for you to practice whatever that we learn. And this slide has a greater significance. I know this thing we all know. The process of communication starts with the sender. They'll have a message. The sender will encode that idea, whatever that he or she has. and it would be communicated through the channel, and that channel, from that it will be received by a receiver, and then he or she will decode it, and they will give a feedback, and that feedback would go back to the sender, and that is the process of communication all about. Here we know that, yeah, feedback is important, sender is important, decoding, receiver, encoding, all these are important. But one thing that most of the time that we fail to recognize is the channel. That is something that most of the time that we take that for granted in business context, or in any context, I would say. Channel plays an integral part in making the intended message that you are trying to convey to your audience. Channel plays an integral part. How does it says? See here, every channel has its own purpose with regards to the way it is being reached to the audience, whether it has a greater richness or it has a less richness, whether it is a richer medium or it is a linear, the medium is not that effective. So it has that. See, face-to-face communication has a greater richness in conveying the message. Video conferencing has the other end, because the pandemic has opened the gate for us. These days we have a lot of online universities, and like when we send a bulk email, the richness is very less in that context. When we give bulk postures, that might not have greater richness. Rather, if we look at face-to-face communication or video conferencing or telephoning, it has a greatest, I mean, the richness is quite high. But most of the time we take the channel for a toss. We'll take that for granted. We would not give that greater importance or greater significance. But mark my words, if you choose the channel rightly, when you choose the channel, that's like interesting concept called medium determines the message. When you communicate, the medium that you choose, that determines the importance of the message or the impact of the message that you're communicating. When we choose the wrong medium, the intended message have a lot of possibility to get diluted. The medium that we choose plays an integral part. That's what a Canadian linguist, Marshall McLuhan, who says that the medium that we use to communicate an information have a significant impact. It's not just a normal impact. It has a significant impact on the message that we deliver. When we choose the wrong medium, the message would go in vain. A key to effective communication is to, the medium plays an integral part for effective communication is to match the communication channel with the goal of a message. That's again a researcher, Barry and Fulmer, who says that the importance of medium. When determining whether to communicate verbally or by written, ask yourself, do I need to convey a fact or the feeling? See here, verbal communication is the best way to convey someone's feeling or emotions. When we look at written communication, that's the best way to convey facts and figures. Because when we say facts and figures by word, through verbal, that might not convey so clearly. Whereas by written, it will have a written document, so that the impact that it can have would be high. So the point I'm trying to reiterate and emphasize here is that the medium is something that is this is one slide that I want everyone to that will be a takeaway by end of the session. This is one. There are quite a lot as well. So this is something that I want you to take away. The medium that we need to give too much of importance. When based on the message, we need to choose the medium. And that medium determines the impact of the message. So the power of good communication in the workplace, if we look at, I strongly believe, maybe if someone have any questions, maybe some concern about that, you guys can ask. I strongly believe in a fact that the success of communication in the organization has a direct impact in the success of the organization. The success, the effectiveness of communication that is being practiced in the organization, within the organization as well as with the external stakeholders, have a direct contact with the success of the organization. Let's take an example. When the manager is in a position to convey his ideas or her idea clearly to the employee, they would know what to do. They would know what to do. When they know what to do, there would be less chaos. There would be less unwanted talk. They can focus on their work. When they can focus on their work, they can be creative. When they can be creative, a lot of innovation can happen. When a lot of innovation can happen, that will impact the growth of the organization, and therefore it plays an integral part. So the importance of good and effective communication in the workplace plays an integral part, which we are supposed to follow. And if we take the other side, when a communication that comes from the manager is not effective, or if it is not creating an impact with their team, then there would be a lot of chaos. There would be a lot of question mark. There would be a lot of uncertainty. In that case, the team will be thinking and talking too much about that, what they are not clear about. In that context, they cannot use their creativity or innovation. Therefore, that will hamper the progress of the organization wherever they are working. So the power of communication, the power of effective managerial communication plays an indispensable role in the success of the organization. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize. This is the second takeaway that I want you all to take by end of the session. Good communication takes a long way to build effective team. I'm sure most of you are working right now, and few of are doing your internship, and few are aspiring to be a managers going forward. So in this context, see, when we have good communication, we can easily build the team and let everyone have the voice to communicate freely. When in an organization, everyone should have their voice. Everyone should be, that's what I said. When an employee feels that his voice is being listened by the top management, they can be impactful. They can create an impact in the organization. When the same employee is not being listened or not being given adequate importance, he or she cannot be as productive as they are when they've been listened, right? Openly communicating ideas without fear of outrage. Good communication increase employment engagement. So good communication will make the team to engage and try to make the organization to to make the upward communication, downward communication, horizontal communication, diagonal communication, everything possible. Foster a more productive and talented workforce. Good communication will lead to have a talented pool of workplace. In HR, there is a philosophy, there's a quote which says that when you recruit a manager or any employee who is below the potential to you, then down the line, the organization will have only dwarfs. When we recruit, we need to recruit people who can challenge our existing thing, who can challenge the organization's existing, standard. Only then everyone can go. When we feel that when we recruit someone who is below us, our potential, then the organization, wherever they work in, will have only more of dwarfs who cannot really perform much. So work satisfaction for always. When we have good communication in workplace, there will be a lot of satisfaction. When they have a lot of satisfaction, they can be more innovative, creative in the work that they do, and eliminate misunderstanding and ambiguity and question. That's what I said. Good communication will eliminate all these things, which will be a stumbling block, a major stumbling block when we communicate, right? So okay, we talk about communication, this, that, or what is business communication? As simple as that. It encompasses three major components like intercultural communication, or cross-cultural communication, corporate communication, and managerial communication. These three components makes the business communication as a whole, right? Okay, what is business communication? Is there a difference between a business and general communication? Yes. Business communication will have a specific goal. The organizational goal of both the employees and the management will interact to reach the goal of the organization. There'll be a vision and mission to the organizations. In order to reach that, both the management and the employee will work together hand in hand to reach the goal of the organization. And the purpose of business communication is to improve the practice that they have, and to reduce the error. It should be more formal. The business communication should be more formal, and it should be more objective rather than being subjective. And more importantly, business communication, that in an organization where whenever we do, we need to get more feedback. That will not be the case in a general communication always. Whereas in business communication, this is the practice that they will follow always. There in general communication, all these are optional, whereas in business communication, these are must point. Right? Okay. So communication, and we would communicate at different context at workplace. We communicate leadership communication, that's managerial communication. We would tend to give update or get update, presentation, meetings, client communication, informal interaction, small talk, all these things possible at workplace. We need to get ourselves familiarized, because you see, in each of this aspect, the language choice that we are supposed to use would differ. The choice of our language would differ in each of this context. That's what people say, and I strongly believe communication is more context specific. There is no hard and fast rule for an effective communication. It is the context that defines us to communicate in a way that we communicate, to make it more impactful and to make it more effective. So the context of the communication in which that we communicate determines the language choice and the other channels that we use to communicate and the medium that we choose. So the impact of context plays an integral part in workplace communication. And here, for a communication plan with components, we should know, for an effective business communication, we should know first thing, who's my audience, to whom I'm going to talk. Am I going to talk with the executives? Am I going to talk with the research scholars? Am I going to talk with the working professionals? Or am I going to talk to the future, aspiring business management graduates? We should know who is my target audience, who, what, how, when, and who is the owner, who is the source. So these are the things that we need to know well in advance before we communicate. That's something which is, and knowing the audience is again an integral part. Because when we don't know who is my target audience, I can prepare accordingly. The same content can be communicated differently to a communication researchers, to the PhD research scholars, who is in the field of communication, who are doing their research in the field of communication. So the audience plays an integral part in choosing what is going to be my message. Audience decides, not me. It's not that again, a quote that I'm impressed about, the importance of education, where they say education is not about telling the student what you know, rather planting what they want. So the message, it's the audience who decides the message, what I want to say, and that message will decide how I'm going to say. The medium, audience, who decides what, and what decides how, and how decides when, the schedule, and when decides, to build the credibility, who is talking. I've completed my PhD from Hyderabad Central University in the field of communication, and the sources that whenever I take any source, I'll try to refer. So the source, all these things plays an integral part in making our communication successful and impactful. I hope I'm making sense. Is there any question before we move on to the other aspect? Or shall we take the question at last? Any question from the audience? Or
sir, your wish, sir, like we can communicate at the last all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if that be the case, we'll take it last. Okay, effective business communication. What effective business communication can lead to? We have seen, but we are seeing in tangible points. Strong decision making. That's what I say. Think of that example where a manager communicates an idea and that idea is clear. There's no more, it does not require any other extra information. It's clear, it's crystal clear. Then we don't need to, we know what to do, and we can use our creativity and innovation, because we'll have more time, and that's important. So good communication will help us to build team, strong decision making. So effective communication can yield to strong decision making. and more productivity. They know what to do, and therefore they'll have adequate time. When they have adequate time, they can get their work done in a more productive way and then more fruitful way. And this will be consistent. This will be consistent. When the communication is clear, when the business communication is clear, then they can be more productive consistently, not just once in a while. And strong business relationship, when we have good external communication in the context, we can have good bond. Strong business relationship we can have, and more confidence. Yes, when my manager says, I believe in him or I believe in her, I have that confidence because they're clear about that, and then they stand with that point, whatever they say, and improve professional skill as well. So we can be more professional, and whoever wants to climb the managerial ladder, who want to go into their top position, the key skill that they need to have is good communication. See that. And strong bond between people, so they can have good cordial work relationship. It's not just about work. It's also about good interpersonal relationship that they have within the team. That also, and quick in problem solving. When they are in team, when they can work in team, then they can naturally have a good, they can help each other, and then they can solve the problem whenever they face anything of that kind. So effective business communication plays again an integral part in solving the problem and all these aspects. So again, I'm emphasizing on the significant relevance of effective business communication to have not just in digital gadget, more like, share and comment, all these aspects. I mean, even in our workplace context also, these things are an integral part. And okay, effective communication, okay, all these things. And what would be the stumbling block in this process? I may be a motivated teacher, I may have a lot of motivation, but sometimes there could be certain problem, there could be certain things that could pull back me. And what could be those barriers? So similarly, there could be, we may aspire to be a fantastic communicator, but even during this, there could be there are few stumbling blocks. And what are those stumbling blocks? Physical barrier. Physical barrier in terms of the time that we communicate with, like the place in which that we are sitting and listening. Maybe when we listen the same lecture in an where there is no one is there, where when we pay attention to the community, when we pay attention to the speaker in an in an isolated place, the way that we can comprehend would be more, because that physical environment adds that adds value to whatever the other one is saying. But the same thing when someone listen while someone is driving, while someone is at a different place, when we are listening, the external environment, the physical thing would have a disturbance. That's a barrier. We need to, when we want to have a good communication, we need to make sure there is no external disturbance. And perceptual barrier. So because different people have different perception. That's what I started off with. Maybe when there is a difference between knowing and doing. We may know most of these points, but are we practicing that? There breaks the perception. Emotional barrier. Sometimes people would be more emotional. And during my PhD study, while I collect data, I worked on managerial communication in Indian context, where I looked at the email communication in Indian context, where I could see there are a lot of emotional email exchange between the managers and the employees, where a manager says that the whole project got derailed because of the delayed work. With all caps, she has written. And for that, her subordinate is writing back, I know what to do, so you don't need to tell. I have this is what you communicated, and then I have conveyed it. There, the manager did not convey the idea clearly to the employee, and when the project did not get completed on time, they both got emotionally disturbed, and then it happened. So we need to be cautious about that as well. And cultural barrier, again, I started off with that. So a country like India, which is a union of state, where we are from different culture, when we are from different culture, we should understand the cultural differences, and then we need to, and when we talk about cultural barrier in this context, non-verbal communication plays a major stumbling block, because the non-verbal feature would vary from culture to culture. There's a book by Erin Meyer on the culture map, where she tries to discuss about the cultural difference across the globe. Maybe we'll have another webinar sometimes later on cross-cultural communication and language barrier. When we talk about language barrier, there's an interesting concept called accommodative theory. What does mean by accommodative theory? Accommodative theory is all about trying to accommodate our communication style based on the person that we are communicating with. Whether someone who's having a good proficiency in their language, then we can communicate to them using a different language. When we communicate with someone who is not comfortable with that particular language, then we need to tone it down, the language style, the word choice that we use. And gender barrier, yes, we may not to a greater extent, we may not take that for, we would not give greater significance. Yes, friends, gender difference and gender barrier plays an integral part. My PhD studies on that. I looked at the gender difference in managerial communication. Is there gender difference in managerial communication? Yes. The way the message is being perceived when the message is being communicated from a men manager, it is being received from with a different context by the team. When the same message is being communicated by a women manager, it is being perceived differently. So gender barrier, we need to make sure that gender neutral terms and interpersonal barrier, there could be certain interpersonal barrier we need to understand, and then we try to communicate. An attitude barrier, again, that's again a stumbling block. And lack of focus and eye contact. Being a good communicator, when we don't have a good eye contact, and I strongly believe there are few ways that we can easily build a good good relationship with the speaker and the receiver listener. We can do that easily. The simplest way is to have a good eye contact. When we have a good eye contact, rather than just looking around, and then when we speak, we may not really feel like listening because there is no eye contact, and that would not facilitate, that would not motivate us to listen to that lecture. Rather than when we have a good eye contact, naturally we tend to have that, build that rapport. To build rapport, that's again a best way. And fear of mistake. Sometimes because of fear of mistake, we stop communicating, we may not communicate. Again, that's a barrier. So these things we need to take in consideration when we communicate. And role of effective communication in business, again, the example that I said, it creates successful work environment. Again, I said that that's the second takeaway in line to this slide. Create a successful work environment. A good workplace will help us to have a successful work environment, and provide feedback for the management instantly. It helps the management to grow, because when we don't have feedback mechanism, it would be very difficult for the organization to grow. And effective communication lead to innovation, as Steve Jobs rightly said. Good communication, because when they are clear about that, they'll have adequate time to use their creativity and innovation to get the work done. And strong community and employee relationship, again, it builds and helpful in building strategies and policies. So again, the success of the organization is equal to, like LHS is equal to RHS. Similar to that, successful business communication is directly proportional to the success of the organization. Here comes the theoretical aspect of effective communication from Aristotelian perspective, where he talks about rhetoric triangle, where he talks about ethos, pathos, and logos, where he talks about the speaker, audience, and the message that with which that we communicate. So in Aristotle rhetorical triangle, where he starts with, first thing, whom are we talking to? As I said before, who is the target audience? That audience plays an integral part. They will decide what they need to know. Okay, this is my audience. Most of them are management graduates, and few are working professionals. So what they want to know, we need to get to know about that. How can we connect to the audience? Channel, we can think, or creating that curiosity, how we can connect to the audience. We need to get to know about that. How much do they know already well in advance? That's by knowing the audience. Okay, they are management graduates, they know, but are they practicing? Okay, we can give them some tip. So knowing the audience, how much they already know about the subject, from there we need to start. That's what I said, that the education is not about pouring what you know, rather planting what they want, right? So what do they expect to see? What do they expect to see? I mean, by end of the session, what they want to know. So again, audience, that decides. And what is there a prejudices? Is there a preconceived notion that they have already? Then we need to get to know about that. And the agenda, the audience, the message, second thing. Based on the audience, they will direct us to what to say. That's what I said. If the same message, if I want to communicate to a working professional, then the style that with which I communicate, the same, I may use the same PPT, maybe with a little tweaking, but the way I deliver the message would be completely different based on the audience. And my audience will decide the message, where I need to add few more, and then I need to connect with more examples. Where what are we trying to achieve, the message? What are we going to inform them? Are we going to inform them? Are we going to express? Are we going to persuade? Is it really necessary? And the message should be more logically correct. That's what coherence. And the message that we are communicating should be factually correct. Again, that's an important point. Is the message is clear and specific? So these things has to be given greater importance once we know who is my target audience. So again, that's an important aspect that we need to focus on in order to make an effective presentation. After knowing the audience, the message, knowing the subject effectively, we should know, and after we know the subject clearly, we should try to convey that clearly to the audience. And second, the speaker. Whenever we speak, never think that your audience are dumb. When we think it's we, the speaker, are dumb. They are well educated, they know more. When we speak, they will see the attitude, they will assess us from different perspectives. So the speaker's attitude plays again an important role. What do you want the audience to remember? That's what I said, that as and when the key takeaways, when I want my audience to know by end of the session, make them, okay, remember that. What do you want the audience to remember? I have 3 points my audience wants to know by end of the session. How will you show the credibility? When I talk about the importance of communication, and then if I don't know to talk in correct communication, if I don't use proper language, and if I speak with fragmented language, that may not really have a better impact. So when you talk about importance of communication, make sure that you communicate clearly, unless it will not build the credibility. And how will you demonstrate that you are an authority of the subject? That's by communicating. What do you have in common with your audience? And create that bond. And that's again an important aspect. So these are the major 3, Aristotelian rhetoric triangle, where he talks about the importance of audience, the message, and the speaker's attitude, right? Here comes his exact word, where he talks about ethos, pathos, and logos. This is the point I want my audience, the takeaway for my audience. I want my audience to know about this as well. Ethos. What is ethos? Ethos is is through building credibility with the audience, which is the quintessence. There's a famous Roman rhetorician who says that building that credibility is the quintessential role. What is quintessential? Which is the essential. Where he says, Quintilian, a Roman rhetorician and theorist, who says that building credibility among the audience or with the audience is important. When we build that credibility, it's done, job is done. Good man speaks well. When they have that good person speaks well, Here I'm quoting good man because that's how it is quoted, but good person can speak well, general neutral term. And pathos, what is pathos? Connecting emotionally to the audience. When I say emotionally, not weeping or not laughing, trying to reach out to their need. Let's not forget that the little emotion are the great captivate of our lives, and we obey them without realizing it. That's Vincent van Gogh who says. Pathos, trying to build emotional connect and to build credibility. Logos is trying to logically organize the content that we are talking about. Logic is the anatomy of thought. When things are not being logically organized, may not go well. So ethos, pathos, and logos plays an integral part in making our communication appealing, persuasive, and more impactful, right? So to connect with the audience, these things that we can follow. We are coming to the end of the session where communication is not over when you finish delivering the message. It starts there. Communication is not over when we finish delivering the message that whatever that we want to communicate. Rather, it starts there, right? So a person's competence and a person's effectiveness are based on their ability to communicate effectively. That's what, going back to my fifth slide where I talked about, or where we discussed about hard skill and soft skill. When they have good competence in communication, in putting their ideas across the table, they can be successful. So competence isn't the problem. Rather, how we communicate that idea is the major problem. How we put across plays an integral part, right? So with this, we come to the end of the session. If there's any question, feel free to ask. I'm happy to share my idea. If there's any question, please feel free. And yeah, if I know, I'll say. If not, I'll get back to you. Yeah. Feel free to express your questions or doubts, whatever that you have. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
sir, how can we connect to the audience? How will we know that?
How can we connect to the audience better? Okay. So yeah, what I did with this webinar is primarily, before I believe you all registered for the session. So when you register for the session, I get to know about your profile. What's your work experience? Where are you working? And through that, we can, I try to know about who's my target audience. And based on that, I try to tweak in my presentation. Similarly, if you are being invited to give a guest lecture, or if you're going to give a guest lecture to your team where you're working, then you know who is the profile of your the team that you're going to communicate with. Based on that, we can we can know about our audience, and then with that we can get to know about the audience. If not, for example, let us assume that I've been called from an organization to give training to their mid-level managers. Then what I would do is that I'll float a Google Drive. I'll float a Google Sheet to know the details that I want to know about my audience. Or I will talk to the HR manager or the CEO, or the concerned manager, whoever is I'm in contact with, get to know about the profile of my target audience. When we get to know, that's the very first step. And if we get to know about that audience, then we can do it. And these are the ways that we can get to know about our audience. When we've been invited, it's good to get the clarity from the audience. Get the clarity from the concerned organizer, who's my audience. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Sir, while we are giving any seminar or while we are talking to some students, so how we can make a mind gaming to attract them?
Fantastic question. From an academic perspective, when we give a presentation within our peers, within our classroom, okay, So in that case, that's a nice thing that we can do, because we know my friends. I mean, I know my friends and we know our friends. When we know that what would interest them. We need to do some bit of research about, okay, they know about, see, when I discussed about the idea of pan-Indian concept is something that has been discussed a lot after the release of KGF, Triple R, and what to say, Vikram movie. So there is a lot of such buzzword that's happening across. So try to use the words that the audience can connect to. The choice of words that we use, maybe we can try to pick and choose the words that we can associate with, that are the audience can associate with, that they can relate with. If we can use such words, that will have a better reach and connect to the audience.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, any other questions? I hope whatever that we discussed made some sense. If there's any question, please do let me know. Or if it is clear, you guys can
Yes, sir.
put it in chat box. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sir, I have a small doubt.
Yes, Scott. Yeah.
Yeah. How to overcome the fear when you are giving presentations and
Yeah.
addressing the audience? So can
Yeah.
you give a brief discussion about to the audience? So can we have a clarity on this?
Sure, Karthik.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a common doubt, and that's a common question with most of them, where people used to say that, I mean, the biggest fear that a human has is, there's a study which says that whether it is jumping from the 15th floor or holding a snake in their hand or presentation, out of which public speaking is the biggest fear of any human being. Whether they want to be, what to say, whether if they are scared, I mean, whether if there's like a chance is given where you want to hold a snake in hand or you want to address a huge audience, people are very much happy to jump from or to hold a snake rather than giving a presentation, because they are reluctant, because they are, what to say, because that's the major problem. So that's a common problem with everyone. So let's not worry about that. Even Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam has said that whenever he goes to give a lecture to the students, he always have that butterfly effect with him. So that's that respecting audience. So with regards to specific, I mean, which is what I'm trying to say is that that's a common thing. Having fear is a common thing. So let's not keep it a, what to say, big thing and then let that pull. To build the, what to say, to a specific question is on how we can overcome stage fear. Yeah, we can overcome stage fear by practicing that we can do with our peers or with ourselves. Before I did this presentation, whatever, whenever, especially when I give a presentation outside, I'll do a literal presentation. I'll record it, I'll watch it back, and then I'll make sure that if there is any suggestions, or I'll talk to my friends, and then I'll get their feedback, inputs, and then I'll do it. So good practice would help us to what to say, to work on, to improve on our stage fear. And stage fear is a common thing. Even before I deliver this, not just me. That's what I gave an example of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Whom hell we can quote better than that, because he has addressed n number of lectures, right from UN till the classes at Chennai, at, I mean, everywhere in India as well. So because he taught in Anna University in Chennai, that's why I just quoted. He was a visiting faculty there, and then he has addressed across the country. Even the place where I'm sitting at, Sivani Institute of Management, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam have visited, and then he has given his talk. Before he gives a talk, he always have that fear factor. That's something, it's a good positive motivation for us to prepare well, and that preparation would make us to present well. Karthik, is it okay? Is it clear?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you. Verbal, there's a question from Rupesh. So verbal communication is best communication rather than written communication. Yeah, each medium has its own significance and relevance. That's what I said, that the channel that we choose, medium determines the message. There are certain message that determines certain medium. That's why whenever any official document comes, that comes with the written draft of it. Even the physical meeting or the team meeting that we have, whenever we have a physical verbal meeting that we have in an organization, we always document it as the minutes of the meeting. The key points will be documented and then kept in the written format. So each medium has its own purpose. We will choose the medium based on the message that we want to convey. So yeah. Yeah, any other question? Let me just check the chat box. Marapan, my friend, my student, thank you. Okay, thank you, Pawan sir. Thank you, sir. I hope I have addressed the question. If there's any question, feel free to say, or you can write back to me. My email ID is dinesh@ssim.ac.in. You can reach out to me. I have texted in the chat box. If there is any queries or any questions, you can reach out to me in this email ID. And if you want to talk to me, yeah, you can 9566741581. You can reach out to this contact number. So yeah, you feel free to do that. Yes. If there isn't any question. Anything? Okay. So if there isn't any question, then we'll call it a day. Thank you everyone for attending the session. I hope it has created some curiosity or some learning by end of the session, I assume. And thanks for attending once again, and hope to see you all sometime soon. Yeah, thank you everyone. All the best. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.